I've seen all egos go away when people talk about how delicate their
You want me to use this like patla yellow band?
Yeah.
Like, dude, I want a bench.
I'm telling you, the sexy lift gets sexier when you do the prehab.
Welcome everyone to another episode of the Overcorrection. Today we are in studio with Maulika Sharma. She is a fitness coach, a recovery specialist. She goes by the Instagram handle The Girl with Abs.
Gyms do not like that you train without shoes. Because of wearing shoes, all of your feet literally... For a lot of people, training is just going, sweating it out, burning the calories, feeling like you're the king of the jungle and you're here to destroy. It comes to fitness, like people will overdo the steroids. That guy with big muscles and abs is the most unhealthy human being.
Oh, he's liable to have a heart attack yesterday. Me and my cousin used to play chappal fly, where essentially it's about how far you can whip your chappal off your feet.
Kids who see their parents train, work out, most definitely aspire to want to do the same.
When I was a kid, my dad used to take me for squash when I was 7, but not even to play. He was like, no, you can't just play. You have to just watch me first. And all I wanted to do was play. And he was like, listen, this is serious business.
Like breath work is one of them. Life can be lived without constantly feeling anxious. And I didn't know that.
But it's hard, unlike popping a pill.
So when I started combat sports, my mom cried.
Welcome everyone to another episode of the Overcorrection. Today we are in studio with Maulika Sharma. She is a fitness coach, a recovery specialist. She goes by the Instagram handle The Girl with Abs. And she's quite a beast, man. I've seen her do some crazy stuff fitness-wise. She takes part in MMA, professional full-contact MMA fights.
Yes. Firstly, thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to do this.
We were discussing so many things like before the studio. I was like, okay, we better get in and start recording. So first thing I want to get into is that Maulika is going to do some core release work for me after this. And this sort of came out from us talking about holistic health.
Yep.
You know, how so many things like anxiety, depression, mental health issues can be connected to actual physical issues in your body, whether it be places that are blocked up in various ways or even how you breathe.
Right.
And before we get into all of that, because we're going to, it's such a far point from a girl who started with the handle The Girl with Abs.
Yeah.
You know a very different approach to fitness. So how did that start?
So it started, literally the handle speaks for itself.
Yeah.
The Girl with Abs 16. When I was 16 years old, I started my fitness journey or my interaction with fitness, and my one goal was, like any other teenage boy, I would say, not even a girl, to get abs. So for 6 months, I worked out really, really hard in the gym. I was already very skinny. So for the skinny abs to show, it didn't take a lot of hard work in terms of building muscle, but it was more about just getting to as low a body fat as I could.
You know how jealous some people are of the skinny abs people? Like who are just like thin and just have abs automatically without trying.
In hindsight, I was one of them, but not anymore.
But yeah, so, you know, I think most people at a young age get into fitness for the aesthetic, the cool reason.
Right.
No one gets in for like, oh, I'm into holistic health and I'm 15 years old. You know, no one is that person. But it stems from vanity, I guess. And while it's a nice way to enter the space, I guess, you know, it's good to want to look better, etc. I feel it leads to a lot of long-term insecurities in people. Do you see it like having a negative effect? Has it ever played a negative effect in your life at any point over the many years?
So, you know, when you're growing older, you're developing your identity. You're bringing a sense of ego into your existence, right? When you're a baby, you don't have a sense of self. Your sense of self is basically your parents. And then as you get older, you start developing a sense of yourself. So that need for vanity, that need for recognizing that, hey, this is me and this is who I am with respect to the rest of the world is also important.
Yes.
But as you get older, as you go, you explore more from building yourself into exploring the world outside of yourself. You kind of do start getting rid of that extra ego or vanity that you do tend to develop when you're younger. So I do think it's very important that you do develop a strong sense of self and then understand that life is beyond that sense of self. But it's important for you to develop that identity. So when people are young and they're starting out their fitness journey, it's very cute to support that idea of them wanting to look that way, because it is the initiation of a much larger journey, similar to what I guess it would have been for you, and definitely for me, where it branched out to me wanting to have abs, to now in this journey of say 10 years, I've understood that that was just a small portion of the bigger picture.
Bigger picture, which is health, I guess.
Bigger picture, which is health.
Yeah, so for me, it wasn't aesthetic at the start. It was from sport.
Okay.
And sport has like, I started playing sports, competitive sports. I played under 9 squash tournaments.
Okay, wow.
Right. So at the age of 8, you have like some goal and a set target. And even that goal, while sports are great and they teach you so many good things, sports is not the same as health. Being good at sports is not the same as being healthy.
Right.
And it has that same thing. There's like a vanity of wanting to be the best athlete, to beat other people around you, to play better in the same way you may want to look better than other people. And I will never say that that was a bad thing, because it eventually did lead me to the path of caring about holistic health and fitness.
Right. But that's so amazing that you had that exposure and encouragement to play the sports that you did early on.
I was very lucky like that.
Yeah. Like, I wish that my introduction to fitness came in as a encouragement to excel in a sport, but it came in much later, and hence the introduction was the gym. But I would have loved to like pursue something more competitively being younger.
So it was so weird how I approach sports versus now I train kids sometimes, and I see how like their parents have to send them to a, in some cases the kids don't want to go, but the parents are like, you need to do fitness class.
Right.
Or, football class or whatever. When I was a kid, my dad used to take me for squash when I was 7, but not even to play. He was like, no, you can't just play. You have to just watch me first. And all I wanted to do was play. And he was like, listen, this is serious business. Like, you don't just play. There's a method to this. See what we're doing, understand, and then one day you can just go hit on your own after you've understood and you show that. So sports was like a reward to me. It wasn't something that I had to do as a punishment. It wasn't forced at all. And it was the way it was presented to me, because my dad was actually playing. He wasn't just sending me to a class. So I got that reinforced in that way. And then his friends would feel bad for me and like give me their racket. And they were like, don't tell your dad.
So sweet.
Thanks, DK uncle.
But it's so important for your kids to actually see the parents doing what they are preaching. Like, kids who see their parents train, work out, most definitely aspire to want to do the same.
Completely.
Yeah.
In fact, like they just imitate your habits. They live by example.
Yeah.
Do you train kids at all?
I actually have had the experience to train kids. I don't have them as my
currently,
as my constant clients. But I've trained that age group, and it's so amazing. It's so amazing with how fast they pick up stuff. And also, now that I'm working with people, I'm correcting their years or weeks of bad form. But with kids, they come with a blank slate. There's nothing to correct. There's only things to learn. Here, you have to first forget about all the things you've been taught and then correct. But with kids, they just are a blank slate and they pick up things so fast. Their bodies are so flexible.
Yeah, that's reducing though, unfortunately. Yeah, because I do this. I meet kids and I always check, can they do a Padmasana? Because I remember what age I was not able to do a Padmasana at. And it was probably into my late teens that I, not worked on my flexibility enough, which is still terrible.
Oh.
But
I would have assumed that you would have good flexibility knowing that.
I know all this now. I'm 30 years old. I did 20 years of damage to my body from the age of 7 to like 27.
Oh.
And that will take many years to correct the long-term effects of that. But I see that now at a much younger age. I see kids, because I used to play on the floor all the time as a kid. Like
now they have their iPads.
Now they have their iPads. They sit in chairs all day. They literally have sedentary lives that competing with their parents who are at 50 have sedentary lives. And they're on the iPads. They'll sit cross-legged like this. Like, it doesn't go down.
I mean, how hard is it going to be to correct somebody who's lived like that all their life? Like, I feel like the clients that we're working on right now, they're still of that age group where the bad habits have started. Like they haven't been on their iPads when they were little.
Yeah.
Like the whole social media technology has just come about, not just come about, but it's been for the last 20 years maybe.
Yeah, we are about in that midpoint generation, like all
where
this.
we've seen life without it,
Yeah,
where we
I remember.
have, played around, ran around as kids with other kids.
Yep.
But now it's a lot more isolated. Like I don't think kids get that kind of exposure in that same sense of like kids playing with kids. It's more like in terms of classes now.
Yeah, we used to have some like crazy games. Like me and my cousin used to play chappal fly, where essentially it's about how far you can whip your chappal off your feet.
Yeah.
Either standing or off a swing, and it was such a weird thing to do, to give your foot like such a hard jerk in an uncomfortable position. And now so much of exercise is like curated. There's warm-ups and there's this and there's there's no free play which our bodies like respond to really well. Like I talk like my building, they have
the
a play. Chore police, dhappa, this amount of running around and falling and running barefoot. Like on concrete. Now kids are wearing Yeezys, I guess. Bags of cotton on their feet, and then
even just wearing shoes is so bad for your foot.
Yeah.
If any takeaway from this podcast, it would be that spread your toes.
Yeah.
Spread the fingers of your feet, because of wearing shoes, all of your feet literally converge.
Yeah.
Like if you see your feet, if I ask you to lift your pinky right now, you might not have the brain to muscle connection to
I definitely don't have. It's a vestigial organ at this point.
Yeah, exactly.
Or vestigial body part.
It's so bad when you wear shoes. And, this is one thing that I want to just point out since I'm getting the opportunity of a mic here. Gyms do not like that you train without shoes.
Oh, thank you for saying that.
And I have been, going to a gym with my shoes and saying, hey, I have my shoes. This is not an excuse. I haven't forgotten my shoes. But just hear me out. Wearing shoes is not optimal for weight training. Like people have all kinds of shoes to support poor ankle mobility. Like, you see people squatting with an elevated surface,
shoes,
which is good for
professional weightlifters.
But you need to be able to do a squat without your heel rising up.
Absolutely.
And because you have that shoe, you're never exploring your ankle mobility. So you're never going to be able to go down that much.
Let me build on that. If you build too much strength in one capacity, where you build your hip mobility to do a full squat, your knees are in good shape, but you leave a weak link over there because that is assisted. Now your ankle's a weak link, because you have assistance there. In life now, when you do have to by chance get into a deep squat suddenly, you may pull your ankle muscle.
Yeah.
So our body is designed in a way where it's supposed to collectively
work together.
Supposed to collectively work together
as a unit.
And at certain points, like if you're in the Olympics and you're doing a professional like clean and jerk and stuff, yes, wear weightlifting shoes because you're using it as a tool, a sport-specific tool to be able to do better. But
not as a compensatory tool.
Exactly.
Like same with lifting belts. It's doing the function of core bracing, and everyone's missing out the point of core bracing. So again, if you're doing it professionally, you're going for a competition, by all means have the protection of using a belt. But when you're doing day-to-day lifting, your core is supposed to be your belt. Your braced core, your transverse abdominis is your belt.
Yeah.
And in the pursuit of lifting heavy with an incorrect form, you have now built your body, you've strengthened your body in very dysfunctional ways.
Yes, and one
where
day
maybe some part of your muscle is being overused, overcompensating for your lack of core strengthening. Which in the case of deadlift is your lower back.
Yeah.
Which is why a lot of people have complaints of lower back pain when they do deadlifts, is because they are doing it incorrectly. They're doing it without the braced core. And
they probably need to first realign their deadlift form with an empty bar.
Yeah.
And get that right, but that doesn't look good on the Instagram.
I mean, I have seen a lot of like people openly say that we don't do deadlifts anymore. We don't do deadlifts and squats anymore because the lower back pain is really bad. It's really bad. And if you don't correct it, it just keeps getting worse. And you can't play around with the spine. And I think I've seen all egos go away when people talk about how delicate their spines have become.
People work through all sorts of knee pain. They work through, elbow pain. They'll work through wrist pain. But when people's back goes for a toss, they throw their hands up.
Yeah, you cannot. You
it's
are
debilitating.
bedridden. You're bedridden. So
let's get into this. Why is there so much dissatisfaction with people and physiotherapy right now in the market. You go ask people how their physio was. 8 out of 10 times, they liked it for a bit, they forgot to do it, then pain came back, pain went away. No long-term fixes. People's recurring injuries are increasing. You have a knee problem once, it's something that now acts up for years and years and years.
Right.
Where are people going wrong in their physiotherapy? How much do you think it is people doing physio incorrectly and physio being prescribed incorrectly?
So I think it goes... Okay, so I'll speak from both sides. One is from the client perspective. I understand that it can be boring. Physiotherapy can be boring, especially for people who love to channel their inner animal.
Yeah.
Like for a lot of people, training is just going, sweating it out, burning the calories, putting on your headphones on, feeling like you're here, you're the king of the jungle and you're here to destroy. That feeling is what people chase after. And physiotherapy doesn't fulfill that. Yeah. Physiotherapy is not going to make you feel that way. It's very slow paced.
Control the eccentric.
Controlled movements, slow movements, single joint movements, which are, again, you can't lift heavy in that.
Yeah. So you want me to use this like patla yellow band?
Yeah.
Like, dude, I want a bench.
Yeah. So that's why I guess people don't want to stick to it. But a lot of movements are so important to do that people don't do it. That I guess... See, if you do physio as a form of your prehab, which is injury prevention, then you can very beautifully put it into a workout. You can include it in your warm-up, you can include it in your workout, you can include it in your cool-down. It can be part of that whole animalistic kind of training, like a hybrid training. But if you're injured and you have to go to physiotherapy as a rehab, then you don't have an option. You have to do it because you took the liberties of not maybe working on your body in the way that you were supposed to. Hence, it's injured and hence you have to do the slow work to recover.
Yes.
But if somebody isn't injured and they want to get into physiotherapy kind of training, you can very well include it beautifully into your warm-up and cool downs. And you won't have to have a separate day which is for it.
And can we just talk about this idea of prehab? Prehab is actually just applying the concepts of progressive overload to commonly neglected muscle groups.
Right.
You get what I'm saying,
yeah.
right? Like people will say that, okay, for your upper body prehab, let's do external rotation work. Let's work on your trap threes. Let's work on your rear delts. Let's, get those shoulders pulled back a bit more. We're treating it as prehab because we look at upper day as chest, but actually you're going to do the same thing. You're going to have sets and reps of that muscle and you're just going to work it in the same way you would progressively overload your chest.
Correct.
So I feel that we think of certain things like for upper body, rear delts is prehab, chest is upper body. For lower body, localized glute engagement is prehab, squatting is the actual workout.
See, to some level, it is true. Prehab essentially is strengthening the stabilizing muscles and improving the mobility of the joint that you're going to be training.
Okay.
So, in some sense, it is true that if you are doing a squat, it makes sense to do a glute movement to improve your glute engagement. Or if you are doing, say, an upper body chest workout, you must do shoulder
like
external rotation and all of that to give a good foundation to your main lift. So it is that, it's not limited to that, but it's essentially strengthening the weaker links, the stabilizing muscles, and improving the range of motion of your joints.
Yeah, probably a byproduct of people skipping the less sexy lifts.
Yeah.
Over time, and now you have to just bridge that gap.
Yeah, but I'm telling you, the sexy lift gets sexier when you do the prehab. When you do, your shoulders feel a certain way. When you do like a bunch of shoulder, like people have rounded shoulders, right? And then you're doing all the lifts with rounded shoulders. But once you put good blood flow in your rotator cuffs, they go back into its place and then all your moves are better.
And your aesthetics are going to be better because of that. Your chest is going to look more fuller because it's more exposed. These things have ripple effects. People think that, that'll just affect how I feel, which is the most important thing it should affect. But it will translate into your aesthetics just from how it looks, but also you will have more range of motion on that chest
press. Your muscles will grow more maturely instead of grow. when people train, they train their muscles, but you're actually supposed to train your joints. So you train your joints in its full range.
Okay.
And the muscle aids that movement, right?
Yeah, like your body doesn't know muscle, it just knows movement.
The movement. So for just a very simple example, elbow extension, which is this. You've done elbow extension, but the byproduct of this movement is your muscle elongating and
or your tricep contracting.
Yeah, your biceps elongating and shortening.
Yes.
But the main movement is elbow extension.
That's the point of it.
That's the point of it. So when people do range, which is this, you are not working on the range of motion. So you have strength in the muscle. You have put blood flow in the muscle by doing this range. So you are going to get the pump. Your muscle is going to grow. But you didn't train the joint. So you shouldn't think of training the muscle. You should think of training the joint.
Or the movement.
You know,
more than because think of training that you have to think of it as a cohesive movement. Like imagine you're even doing a bicep curl. Now you'll focus on your bicep, but really, hey, if you're holding a weight, your grip should be pretty well engaged.
Yeah.
You know, and part of this movement involves, hey, my grip should be engaged, my forearm should be a little externally rotated, my scapula should be neutral, and I should curl in. And the bicep is one of many parts playing that movement. It may be the strength part that is coming mostly from the bicep, but the stability, the control, all that may come from elsewhere.
Right.
I think that's where injuries come from.
Right.
I mean, knees over toes guy has popularized the shit out of this.
Yeah.
Did you ever go through his...
I'm a big fan. I do everything that he does. So one movement that I love from knees over toes guy is the ATG split squat.
Okay.
If someone asked me one movement for leg, I would just suggest that movement because it works on obviously your quads, your glutes, but in its full range of motion. So when you do the movement, while it's challenging the strength part of it, it's also giving you a stretch on your hip flexor. You know, it's also challenging your stabilizers. So your gluteus medius, minimus. So it's a holistic movement in its full range. So
yeah, and if you look at it, one of the key postures in yoga is Veerbhadrasana, the warrior pose.
Okay.
And it essentially is a movement-filled version of the warrior pose. Going in and out of it, you will kind of reach the similar type of muscles and holds. What I really like about yoga, and I've read this about how it works with certain circuitry in your brain to help relieve joint pain, it's because it focuses on isometric training. And if you see in a lot of physio, isometric sometimes works best.
Right.
Where it's like this is where, you don't want to just always go down one path of only full range of motion training. Sometimes when your joint is terribly inflamed, isometrics are the best thing to do.
Right.
Because it actually allows you to stimulate that muscle around the muscles around the knee, whether it's the quad, the hamstring, the calf. It allows you to stimulate that muscle without causing aggravation to the joint, which is already terribly inflamed. So yeah, let's get more into this training thing. We had a lot of fun questions. How do you evaluate a fitness trainer? You had trainers in the past, your own trainers. Do you currently have a trainer?
Yes. I have trained under so many people, under bodybuilders, powerlifters, fighters, lots and lots of physios specializing in certain sports like cricket or kabaddi. So I love getting coached under people because there is just so much to learn in this field. So I've learned under a lot of people, and I would say just some people have a lot of experience and it shows. And
the others? The lack of experience also shows sometimes. The lack of experience
also shows. Like, I guess because I'm in this field, it's easier for me to identify.
So help people with some red flags.
Red flag would be this is like, you'll see a lot of trainers confusing their clients with big words.
Okay.
Like they will just use everything they've studied in their fitness course into that conversion to convert that
Like
client.
What are some of the words?
I mean, I know clearly like the client's not understanding it. I wouldn't want to get into that too much because I feel like I've also seen the trainer's life. Like I've seen life for them, like what life is like for many people. And many people are just trying to make the money.
And also maybe...
they have their strategies of converting people, and
they are responding to the market.
They're responding to the market. But since we are here for the audience, how they can look out for a good trainer would be that a good trainer will simplify things for you.
Okay.
It's not going to try and complicate it and say words that are beyond your understanding, but simplify it so that you understand. And your trainer should want to have the dream to make you an independent person in the gym.
Thank you. I preach this. Like, I don't like people becoming too dependent on trainers, especially when I see people who got into like a 2-3 month fitness journey.
Yeah.
Then their trainer had to leave and go somewhere for some reason, and then dead end. 6 months go by and they've not done any workout. So they can't work out without their trainer sitting and shouting at them. And I love someone shouting at me. It gets me pumped up for sure. But if I can not train without that type of motivation, then man, you're trapped, I feel.
See, it really boils down to like budgets. I would want to have a trainer all the time. Like I do always have a coach who helps me with my kickboxing. And I would like to keep it that way. So I think it comes down to the budget. If you can allocate a budget to like having an expert map it out for you and push you, then good. But if you do not have the budget for it, then you must do training in a way that you can take something out of it and apply it on yourself.
Learn something long term. And also when it's a question of what you're paying for, it's like you can pay for knowledge and expertise. And you can pay, there's infinite knowledge and expertise. So you can keep paying for that and it may be a worthwhile investment. But if you are paying just to have someone motivate you and count your reps, that's probably not a great investment, because you can figure out how to do that on your own, and it will have long-term tremendously positive spillover into your training. Being able to have that self-discipline. Actually, if you're really focused on an exercise with like that mind-muscle connection, that everyone talks about, no one else is around you. It's just you and that weight, so...
But I would say about budgets, because I do believe that if you do have the budget, you should get a trainer. Because I mean, not that you have to get a trainer, but if you feel you lack somewhere, then you can have someone fill in for you if you have the budget.
And if you don't have the budget, or some people don't, but if you feel you don't have the budget, but you're spending $1,000 a night on cocktails somewhere, then try to reprioritize, what that money is worth to you, because it's certainly worth more investing it into your health and fitness.
Right.
Than it is something that is directly killing it.
Yeah. Like I tell people, you need to only come to me for 3 months. Okay. And you're going to have enough to do for the next 2 years. Then you can come back again.
Dude, this is so good to hear you say that. In fact, I think trainers should have plans like this. Like they should sell 3-month packages saying that, hey, this is my goal in 3 months. You can probably charge even more if you do that, because people say that, hey, this guy's not going to try to, or this girl is not going to try to milk me forever and just, go through the motions. She or he has an agenda to transform me in a particular way, and this is their fee for it, and I'm going to leave with this whole thing.
Yeah.
And I really, really think it can be economically fruitful for every party involved. You will earn more money in 3 months, and they will not be spending for a trainer for 3 years.
Yeah.
And there's enough people out there to train. There are so many. Wellness already is and is going to continue to be one of the fastest growing industries in the world. People have spare money and shitty lifestyles and shitty habits.
Yeah.
And they are willing to throw money at people who can help them fix it.
Yeah.
And as they should, they worked hard for that money, but what good is that money without a quality of life? How many rich people do you know in their 50s who have all the money in the world, can't go enjoy a game of badminton?
They're so stressed. They're also very stressed.
Because they don't have those enjoyments in life also. Think about it. They must be stressed because of work. Wouldn't it be nice to be able to embrace that free play that just game and fun can give you, but you're broken now and you could spend 50 crores if you wanted to, but they are just not going to get you feeling good anymore.
Yeah. But just as how we are so interested and invested in fitness, I've seen a lot of people, that same excitement comes through money for them. Like not the money in hand, but just the ability to be able to generate that kind of wealth. So they might not be like people who spend a lot of money, but money gives them that same excitement that probably we get, when we do a workout.
Yeah.
So I've actually started just seeing how different people are, because when you're a personal trainer, you also meet a lot of people.
Yes.
And I have met a lot of different people thanks to this job, and people are very different.
Yeah.
So you have to kind of see.
The ones I think who have it the most figured out are the balanced ones. Those corporate professionals who love their jobs, but also love their workouts, enjoy a bit of both, don't put any of those two on a pedestal.
Yeah.
Not saying it's wrong to be super into one or super into another, but this is a personal perception that I've had of people around me. When I see these people who, they are doing great at work and they love talking about the football game they played on Saturday. But they're not like pumping iron in the gym and stuff like that.
See, balance is definitely key, and everyone's goal is to reach a balance, but it's so difficult to reach that balance that we are compensating in different ways.
Yeah. With the drive that money gives people, and also that animalistic drive that sometimes sports and pumping iron can give people. I think those are very extreme human desires and can be harnessed for great things, but can come at a cost.
Yeah. I think there's something about doing something extreme that's exciting.
Yeah.
Like people, even when it comes to fitness, like people will overdo the steroids. And then to a point where this is not health that we're talking about.
Yeah, so
that guy with big muscles and abs is the most unhealthy human being.
Oh, he's liable to have a heart attack yesterday,
Exactly. So
when it comes to this extreme thing, there's a very interesting study done on people who take part in extreme sports. You've seen Alex Honnold's free solo documentary, scaling like a 2,000-foot cliff with no ropes.
Okay.
And it's called free soloing, and it's a very contentious issue in the rock climbing world, because this is like borderline suicidal. That if you do even something slightly long, you're going to die for sure.
Yeah.
There are some people who have this type in their brain where it's associated with ADHD, it's associated with people who are very distracted and find it tough to be present, where the only time their brain gets present and feels in a flow state is when they're doing something so crazy high risk that if they weren't completely present, they would for sure die.
I agree. When
fighters are like this.
Yeah. So, I've just fought twice. But it's definitely been something that's been very unusual for my family to understand exactly what I like about this. They came for my first fight and my mom cried.
Oh.
Nobody could understand exactly why would someone do that.
My mom wouldn't have come. She would have said, and next time you're fighting, don't tell me. I don't want to know.
Yeah. But it was so difficult for me to understand and explain to someone, why is this exciting? Why is...
Maybe it's some of this,
It's some of this.
Yeah.
It's some of this. It's some...
Actually, our friend, I was talking to Abbas about this, our common friend. And he's a great cardio kickboxing coach and MMA trainer. I told him about this phenomenon we were talking about big wave surfers.
Okay.
Right, surfing 100-foot waves. And we were talking about that, and we were talking about free soloing and these high risk things. And he's a fighter, so I told him about this, and he was like, bro, I totally get it. Like if you ask me what happened in the last 6 hours, I can't tell you anything.
Yeah.
I don't pay attention for whatever reason sometimes when just random shit is happening in life. But bro, this 3 minutes I fought in that ring 2 years ago, I can tell you what every millisecond was like. Of course, it's Abbas. He gave about 10, 12 galis in the middle of that whole number of words I said.
Yeah. I guess it's, I think psychologically we have gotten a little messed up. That we have our own ways of achieving our homeostasis or some kind of balance. For example, I have anxiety. I would love to live that balanced life where I do the yoga. I wake up feeling a certain way, where my mind is in a Zen state. That's my goal. But that's not my lived reality. I am an anxious person. So I need to now do different things to get myself to feel a certain way.
Yeah.
which might mean like a sparring session where, I have to be fully aware so I don't get punched in the face.
Yeah.
But that zone of full awareness makes me completely my anxiety is invisible in that moment. So while that moment is dangerous, it's also one of the most like
Freeing things.
freeing
Yeah.
moments, because I have this issue. So like that, people have their own sets of issues, and then they do their own sets of things to
Yeah, and it'll all
kind of
work in-
combat that.
Yeah, and it's like you said, maybe it's a good intro into that process,
Yeah.
like into dealing with your, and that once you realize that, I feel better after I do this, and deals with that. Maybe that's a good way to even identify that, hey, that's something I deal with.
Right.
And maybe that now leads into, hey, do you know that I can release your core and it will actually have tangible effects physiologically?
Right. So, even when it came to injuries, actually, you don't study about injury, just, you don't think about an injury when you're working out unless you start expecting it.
Yeah.
Like, you're not going to think about your rotator cuff, your lower back, until you start feeling something is wrong. So when I started combat sports, your joints are like in a lot of inflammation, all the time. It's a high injury sport. So I started noticing like my shoulders are hurting, because of constant punching movement. My shoulders were hurting. And if I didn't do anything about it, I would have dislocated my shoulder or I would have had a tear or something along those lines. But then once I started noticing that something's up, my interest in injuries, injury rehab, prehab grew.
Yeah.
So similarly, because I've been an anxious person, I've been very curious to
Learn about anxiety.
tools that help reduce your anxiety. Like breath work is one of them, and I'm going to make you do it after. But
excited,
it is
yeah.
life-changing. It is life-changing. Life-changing in the sense you feel like that anxiety is maybe just a lens that you're wearing, like a shade you're wearing, and you have the option to flick it off and look at the whole world without anxiousness. If you just, tap into those tools. Life can be lived without constantly feeling anxious. And I didn't know that. I didn't know that I could decide that, hey, I'm feeling anxious. These are the tools that I can use and I'll feel less anxious.
And
I thought I had to live with this anxiety.
Yeah. And a lot of people, like, not to cast any type of blanket statement or anything, but this is a fair thing to try along with whatever psychologists may recommend medication and stuff, which has its place, I'm sure. But let's give these non-chemically based things also a try, maybe.
Right.
I don't ever want to say that this is better than pharmaceutical intervention, because there are people who've studied this for stuff. But I'm sure you can guess that this is likely to have less side effects. That's probably common sense.
Yeah.
And if it works, maybe something that is less invasive, that is more internally driven, is better.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think there's anybody saying breathwork is not good.
Yeah.
I think everybody agrees
But
that
it's
just
hard. Unlike
it's very
popping a pill.
hard. It's very hard. Yeah.
There's no pill that will make me do breathwork right now. No? Or like is there a pill that will give me the exact physiological effects of doing breathwork myself?
Yeah. That's why when the trainer question was, I feel like a trainer can be a human pill sometimes. Like I do feel that when clients do come, they leave feeling a certain
Wow,
way.
you have such a nice positive outlook on things. I really like that. That's very nice because we live in this world where,
See, life is very isolated. I had a client and he said, I'm the only person he meets, so he's working at a very high position and he wouldn't meet anybody. He would only meet me. So you need a trainer, not because you need a trainer, but sometimes we are living in a very isolated world.
It's a multifaceted experience.
You need a human interaction.
Yeah. A lot of people like getting their hair cut because they like meeting their regular barber and having a chat, and they have a little relationship. She knows my hair, he knows my hair.
You need people, and not just psychologically, but there are hormones released in the body, right?
When you meet people.
Oxytocin.
Yeah.
Like when you go to the gym, there are certain hormones that are being released that are making you feel good, endorphins. Then when you meet people, there are certain, hormones being released then as well. There's oxytocin, which is making you feel good. So you need human interaction in life. And now, we're living in a dysfunctional world. And we have to find our own, they might not be the best tools, but our own tools to kind of find our balance.
That's great. That's great. I love that.
See, as much as you don't need abs, firstly, you need a strong core. But with that being said, doesn't mean that you have a lot of belly fat.
Yeah, we are actually talking just about belly fat. Huh? In fact, I have been misled. I stopped doing ab training for a bit because I was like, I'm lean enough, I have abs. And then I was like, I quickly started seeing the ramifications into my sport and my lifts where I'm like, yo. These abs have another purpose.
Right.
You know, and this whole idea where people say, if you want a six-pack, Greg Doucette says this a lot. And he has a point. He's like, if you want a six-pack, you don't need to do ab exercise. I was like, yeah, you don't. But there's a whole bunch of other reasons to do them. Abs are made in the kitchen, but strong abs are made in the gym like everything else.
Yeah. And listen, abs is again a small part of the core.
Yes.
You know, abs is like the traditional abs that we talk about is your rectus abdominis, which is just the most superficial layer.
Yeah, your six-pack.
Your six-pack is the most superficial layer. There is so much more to your core that you need to strengthen.
Oh, from a performance point of view, you have to look at your QL, you have to look at your like deep psoas, hip flexor muscles that play into your ab, you know, into how your abs translate into sports.
Yes. And the main purpose of your abs or core rather is stability. It's stable. You know, your core is what binds your upper body to your lower body.
Yes.
Like you have your rib cage, but other than that, you don't have any other bone there. It's your core, which is supposed to support you, structurally
That's so crazy.
support
There's
you.
actually no... I mean, I guess your spine kind of connects.
It's at the back, right? Over here, there's nothing. Your rib cage ends over here.
That's right. So there's no actual bone connecting my anterior body top to the bottom.
Yeah.
Wow, I never thought about it like that.
It's just your core.
It's the spine of your front.
Yeah. It's your core. The spine is of the front.
Spine of your front for dummies, guys. Stay tuned for more, what do you call it?
New
anatomy tips from
Oh, you know, another thing you were asking me about, like the benefit of like training for aesthetics is you get an understanding of anatomy.
Yeah.
Like, you know, when you're training for aesthetics, when I started training, I wanted to compete. Do you know the bikini bodybuilding?
Yeah, I know bikini.
You know, where they pose. Yeah. So I wanted to do that.
I mean, people think of bikini like it's some beach thing. It's like a professional bodybuilding competition.
It's a bodybuilding competition.
It's called women's bikini.
It's called women's bikini.
Yeah, this is not like some, you know, like bikini models on a beach type of thing. Yeah, it's not a bikini model thing.
Yeah. So there were a few reasons why I didn't want to pursue that. But in the process of learning so much about it, in the process of learning so much about bodybuilding and wanting to build a body like a bodybuilder, I learned a lot about anatomy.
Yeah.
Like you understand every muscle, you understand where every muscle is, and that gives you a good foundation again to learning more about your body.
So before we wrap it up, there was this thing that you were talking about, like which are like commonly ignored muscle groups.
Yeah. So just if for people to take away something from this podcast, if there's something that they can immediately start focusing on, I'm just going to say a few muscle names that are very, very neglected but help you structurally. So that would be one is your scapular region.
Okay.
Yeah. So that helps basically with what you did right now. It helps with retraction. So that's an ignored group. So one must focus on that. The rotator cuffs, again, to help with better posture. The hip flexors.
Okay.
Not just strengthening them, but also elongating them.
Okay.
So there's the scapula, the rotator cuff, hip flexors, and glutes and core. Yeah.
And core.
Five muscle groups. If you just start incorporating more of this in your training, you are going to build like a more balanced body.
Just look at where all of these connect to the core. You get it? They are at the upper end of your ligaments. You get it? Like it's where your core connects to your arm.
Yes.
It's where your leg connects to your arm.
Yes.
And
correct.
the idea is if your core is strong, it will have ripple effects into the rest of your body.
Yeah. Your whole body needs to be functioning as a unit.
Yeah,
you're not separate muscles. You're not, there's no benefit of training. Like it's just overly strengthening one part of your body when the other parts are not symmetrically developed. You need to have symmetrical development in your body. If one muscle gets too strong and one doesn't, again, your body will be dysfunctional.
Yeah.
So you need to work on your entire body as one unit. And these are like often ignored muscle groups. So once you start training these muscle groups, you will notice your performance just goes up a notch.
That's great. So if you want to know more about exactly how to train them, you're going to have to reach out to Maulika. Where can people find you?
So I have my Instagram.
It might change.
I have my Instagram, the girl with ab 16. It could change, but maybe after this conversation, it might not.
Let's see.
But you can reach out to me there. I take very limited clients.
Yeah.
Because, it's not
Do you do
possible.
online batches? Because I've seen, why don't you do like one online? Because you must have a lot of people reaching out. Why don't you do like a weekly online batch where people can tune in? It's low cost for them and can be like, I've seen people do it. It's become a very successful model.
Yeah. So during COVID for 2 years,
Yeah.
I had a group class running. For
Yeah.
2 years, it was running. And then post-COVID.
Were people getting benefit in the class?
Yes.
Why not continue? You should do it because you travel, you like to travel, you like to go explore fitness things, fun things around the world. It would be a great thing. I think you should do it. And I think a lot more people need this type of mobility-driven training integrated into their strength work. That's what I see missing the most. It's either yoga or it's lifting. I was like, listen, there are smart ways to program.
Yeah.
Okay, I can train your hamstring in a way that will build your hip mobility. And you will be gassed. You will have sore hamstrings. You will even have some level of hypertrophy, like a good level of hypertrophy. Is it the best way to give hypertrophy? No, but it's 95%. Guaranteed for your average person level of requirement. It can be great. And I see you do that in your training. I see you do a lot of thoracic work.
Yes.
I love the thoracic work that you do. And you almost like even incorporate thoracic work reps on a foam roller, which is like a loaded exercise if you treat it. Just because there's no weights doesn't mean you're not training your muscles and mobility.
Yeah.
So you can find Maulika in that places. Thank you so much, man. We had so much fun.
This is so much fun. I think we can go on talking about it.
Yeah, but we're going to do this again.
Yes. Maybe with more specific questions.
Yes. We'll ask people for some questions that we can dive into.
Yes.
Before the next pod, we can put that out on social media. Specific questions. We can maybe even do a podcast in a gym.
Oh yeah.
Let's do it because I think we will. Otherwise, we'll be standing here. No, it's like this, that.
Are you gonna give them a glimpse of what we're about to do?
Oh yeah. You know what? We'll put it out there.
Yeah.
So guys, we're gonna go try this
core release to help him take deeper breaths.
Deeper breaths. So it's a combination of core release and breath work.
Yes.
And I hope Harshu's still out there. He will love watching this. Yeah,
let's do it.
Okay. That's it for guys. Thank you for watching this episode. We had a lot of fun. Hope you enjoyed it. And stay tuned for more.
Thank you.